Alright guys, Suchcrubber here, back again today. A couple of big things to discuss. I wanted to touch firstly on the center situation, just to follow up briefly from yesterday. A couple of more rumors that have come out surrounding that. Then want to go into some Modern Warfare related topics here regarding the maps and also regarding the game modes. Big news of yesterday is the possibility of Hardpoint, of course, a staple competitive Call of Duty mode that has been in the game. Well, it was in Black Ops 2, of course, first introduced, was removed in Ghosts, interestingly, another Infinity Ward game, as is Modern Warfare, and then was in every single competitive iteration of every game up until, potentially, now. Now, that's not telling the entire story because, you know, at launch doesn't necessarily mean it won't be in the game by the time the competitive season starts. But still, it might mean very interesting things for things that happen early in the season, and how exactly do you prepare for an upcoming CDL when you don't know what the game modes are going to be. But we'll expand on that in coming minutes. So like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you are new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it. And first of all, Dallas Call of Duty news is coming, so they're suggesting that in the coming days, they're going to be talking about some stuff related to their team. Hopefully, it's going to be announced. Crimsix, Clayster have been tweeting a lot, they've been playing a lot together. Of course, rumoured to be alongside Illy, Shotzi and Hook, with potentially even Mutex as a substitute or an S&D analyst or something along those lines. Wanted to go into a couple more details on the whole analyst substitute situation in a couple of seconds here. This came out from the official Seattle Call of Duty account saying, where do you guys think Sensor assigns? A few people were atting me in this saying like, you know, what does this exactly mean? It would be very doubtful to me if Seattle had been the team that he signed for and then they're just atting him in it, but who knows? Seattle's rumoured to be the team that Karma is on and Apathy and those guys, so who knows exactly what's going to happen there. I guess from Seattle's perspective, if you already have a guy like Karma on your team, maybe there's no need to go way above and beyond and get Sensor as kind of a substitute or content creator guy just for the sake of it when you've already going to have fan base behind you for that reason. So maybe that's another thing to consider on that one, but I don't reckon it'll be Seattle. I think that there is a good chance it will be Canada, as what Unchartify at me on Twitter here. Very good clip, actually. I'll play it for you guys in just a second. Look at Doug's body language when whoever he's playing with says Canada.
Left.
Bro, no rush, dog.
Okay. Yo, I signed my my contract today. It's official.
Bro,
I'm on a team.
I saw. I didn't. Who are you with?
I can't
Is
say.
it Canada? Oh.
I'll tell you late. I'll text you in a second. I just
Bro,
can't
don't
say
worry.
publicly.
Get this dub, dude. Get the dub.
Okay. I can't
Is
say.
it Canada? Oh.
I can't
Is
say.
it Canada? Oh.
Now, of course, there's not a Canada spot, there's a Toronto spot, but along the lines of what I was going for yesterday, Canada might make a fair bit of sense, or Toronto might make a fair bit of sense, given that the team that they're rumoured to have, Looney, the Spanish guys, might not necessarily be expected to do the best, which means Sensor might have a decent chance if he decides to go there, because I'm sure, well, he says he's had offers from multiple different avenues. I'm guessing mostly as just a substitute. I doubt he'd have got any starting offers. If he had done, he'd have probably gone to whatever city that would have been in. But assuming he hasn't got any of those, my suggestion would be that Toronto might make good sense for him, because you can go to Toronto and there's a reasonable chance that at some point you might get a chance on the starting roster. Going to another team makes that rather unlikely. But yeah, keep that in mind as we go forwards. Now, just to run back with this thread, Adam Fitch, UK Sports Reporter of the Year, seems like I'm saying that a lot nowadays. A franchise with misplaced priorities, I'd imagine. I thought this opinion was quite interesting. Adam Fitch goes on to say that the CoD scene is primarily made up of friendships. A lot of sub-spots are going to content creators, which is an interesting point. I'm not sure I agree entirely with Adam's analysis here, though, because I feel like, yes, obviously you want substitutes that are going to be able to sub in for your team and be the best players they can possibly be. There's a lot of young talent about that could do that, right? At the same time, you're forced to have 7 players on your roster. You're forced to have 5 starting players and 2 substitutes. Now, if you have 1 substitute that you think is going to be great, why not have your second forced substitute being a content guy that can bring in so many fans to your organization, especially as a new running brand that a lot of these organizations, well, all of them are going to be setting up from the ground up. Having a guy like Sensor or another content creator that has their own fan base to come onto a team, like just for example, I think I saw someone say on Reddit, like, what about if Dr. Disrespect decided to join one of these franchise organizations as like a substitute, but really just like a content creator? like that would immediately bring a lot of fans into that, right? So obviously that's an extreme, but if you look at it on a smaller scale, you'll see the same things start to happen. And of course, it's not like Sensor is a small scale guy. Like he's really well known in FaZe for a long time now, so has a huge following. So I don't think Adam's quite right in his analysis that this is misplaced interest, but at the same time I can see that there may be too much overconfidence in some of these orgs, thinking that their team is going to be perfect and not requiring substitutes. At the same time, if some substitutes do not get signed, it's possible probably to sign them as the season goes on. If they do think they need substitutes, get someone in as like an 8th sub, which you don't need, but you probably could get them in because your maximum roster size is 10. So just to run this past you real quick, Minnesota are doing it the right way in terms of content. Of course, OpTic Midnight has been with OpTic for a long time, worked with Hector for a long time, so of course she's going to understand how to make content work. And they're bringing an episode, they're bringing their podcast, CoD Midnight, Building CoD Midnight podcast. I'll leave this linked down below, show you a short teaser clip they show on their Twitter here.
It's usually weighted in 3 things for the player. It's how much am I going to make? Who am I going to get to play with? Where do I got to go? All 3 of those things are weighted differently for everybody.
So let's go on to some of the stuff that's come out of the gaming revolution. This guy's leaked a load of things, too many things to really even count related to the new Modern Warfare game. He definitely has a lot of sources. Now this apparently is a statement from the guys at Infinity Ward related to Dead Silence. We just don't want Dead Silence as a perk. That probably won't happen. Not sure exactly how they're going to handle Dead Silence, but look, we know playing the beta in this Modern Warfare game that this game is not designed really for competitive in mind. The maps aren't designed particularly for competitive, and a lot of the other features are not necessarily so compatible with competitive play either. So no Dead Silence as a perk is another interesting choice. Let's make this smaller then, just to go through before we get on to the rest of the gaming revolution stuff. This is the updated page of rumours related to the team names. Some of these are heavily rumoured, like the London Ravens, Dallas Empire, LA OpTic, LA Gorillas, Florida Mutineers, Toronto Ultra, the New York Subliners. I think you guys in the comment section were saying it should be pronounced. Definitely sounds much better than what I was going for. The Paris Legion, I think, was rumoured as well. The Minnesota Axis apparently isn't true. Atlanta Inferno, I'm not sure what I've heard about this, but someone seems to have come up with a logo here, so maybe that's true. And these apparently are the colour schemes as well. So, interesting stuff. Thought I'd run this past you guys as we continue to put together our 12 teams. When you see it like this, 12 teams does not seem like much at all. But I guess that's what we're going to have to deal with for this season. Now, these are the maps that we're going to have at launch. Normal maps, not GW, so Ground War. Now, there's a few night maps, or night variations, I guess, of normal maps. And when you tally these up, there's only 10 maps here. Now, these are some of the maps we've seen in the beta. So, Hackney Yard, Gun Runner, we've seen. Both of those I can potentially see it being in competitive play, but look, there's not many maps here. I know there's going to be a lot of maps in terms of the ground war ones and maps designed specifically for gunfight and all of this kind of stuff. But look, this is not the not very many maps, especially when you look at it through the lens of the maps that we had in the beta, which were not necessarily the best. And yeah, here we go with gunfight maps and ground war maps as well. So the kind of ones that we were playing on over the last couple of months or so. Now, Crim6 does reply to this with the following. So only 10 maps I've lost full, obviously being sarcastic. 20 maps in total. There were 2 or 3 normal maps being viable for competitive. As long as they go with 2 or 3 out of 7 on the remaining maps, we've got a good year, folks. So, fair enough, Crim6 is being optimistic about it, but at the same time, I don't think many of the maps in the beta were very good at all. And if it's along a similar vein in the real game, I'm somewhat concerned the kind of quality of maps we're going to be seeing. We do know, though, this year that DLC will be free and available for everyone post-launch. So I kind of saw that as meaning, well, they're going to put the best maps in the game at launch, so because people don't have to pay for them when they come out later in the year. As kind of there is that that feeling that the DLC maps, they deliberately kind of make them better so that people feel like they should purchase them, right, and leave some back from the original game. This year I didn't think that was going to happen, but I haven't really seen too much evidence of fantastic maps so far. So I'm a little bit concerned, but Crim6 doesn't seem to be quite so much. Let's go on to this one. Some post-launch modes in Modern Warfare. Search and Rescue, One in the Chamber, Infected. Now this is also another thing to consider. Hardpoint, baby. Drop Zone Defender, Demolition, Invasion, Gun Game Reinforce, and Team Juggernaut. Now, this is a really interesting point. We've heard that a ranked playlist is probably not going to hit the game at launch. Almost certainly it's not going to hit the game at launch. I don't really mind that, given you need a couple, 2 or 3 weeks to decide what the meta's going to be, what the best maps are. People start to figure things out. Then you can put a ranked play system in. You don't necessarily want it right at launch, but still, when they say it's not going to be in the game at launch, and they're saying that already, that to me says it's going to be a couple of months at least. Hopefully not, but, you know, we'll just have to see, won't we? I thought that with franchising in place, Activision Blizzard will have their, foot on the throat, I guess, of the Infinity Ward developers to make sure this game is catered as best as possible to competitive, to prove to their, $25 million each that has been invested, if not more in some cities, into the CDL to prove that it's worth it. But at the same time, maybe that's relative pennies compared to what they make from actually selling this game to the wider market. But it's definitely not pennies. So hopefully, as time goes forward, they will keep an eye on the competitive scene more closely. That was one of the main benefits I saw of franchising, and maybe, given that, we're not seeing Hardpoint in the game at launch, that's something to consider. Now, just to look through this in a little bit more detail, let's go back to a couple of tweets this guy did a few months ago. Now, new mode featured in the CWL called Infection. It's reverse CTF. You bring your flag to the enemy's base instead of capturing theirs and bringing it to your base, which sounds very much like Blitz to me, right? In Blitz, you didn't have to carry anything, but you could just run over to their portal and bring it to their base, and then you would teleport back. I thought they were going for a realistic, theme, so maybe they won't do the whole teleporting thing. But look, it's kind of reverse CTF, and this seems to have been in the game later as well. And the real telling part is we have this on the 11th of July. A while ago now, things could have changed. He said that there's going to be 5 game modes in the CDL: Hardpoint, Search, Infection, the one we just looked at, CTF, and DOM. So as of now, we're saying that S&D, CTF, and DOM are going to be the only game modes for competitive in the game at launch. And, if this is true, that these 2 game modes that we put... first of all, 5 game modes seems ridiculous anyway, right? Like, I'd much prefer to see S&D, CTF, and Hardpoint, or maybe replace CTF with Infection, if that works better. I don't think Domination's a particularly good competitive mode at all from what we saw in Ghosts. There's a reason why people don't play it in competitive. There's a reason why Hardpoint is played. Maybe Hardpoint won't play so great in Modern Warfare, but at the end of the day, it's Hardpoint. It's been a staple mode, to be honest, in competitive Call of Duty. In my opinion, I think it's the best game mode we have, due to how fast-paced it is and how easy it is to kind of get into, and it's a lot of action going on at all times. I love the change of pace it provides from Search and Destroy. I wouldn't wish that all our game modes were so slow all the time, especially on a boots-on-the-ground game. Anyway, so look, if they are going to go with a 5 game mode CWR, which I can't see how they would even begin to do, like, what are we going to do, best of 7 series? Like, we can't just do a best of 5 with 5 different game modes. Like, is Search and Destroy going to be only a game 5? Like, that's just horrible. We saw in Black Ops 3, right, when we had 4 different game modes: CTF game 3, Uplink game 3, CTF game 4. Like, I don't really think we enjoyed that. I'd have preferred to see 2 Hardpoints, 2 Search and Destroys, because those are the best game modes for my money. If they're not in the game at launch, now, it's not to say they won't be in the game by the time the CDL launches in 2020, right? But this is still not a good sign for sure, because what we want in an ideal world is that when the game drops, people can immediately start to learn the maps, start to learn the rotations. So when the CDL launches, everyone's ready to go. People have been playing online tournaments for weeks and maybe a couple of LAN events, right? And there's a few LAN events planned at the start of Modern Warfare. If these game modes aren't in the game at launch, what are they going to do? This is something that I never expected, to be honest, for a game that I thought was going to be relatively competitively focused when the whole franchise announcement came through. But anyway, that's my little rant on that. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. As always, I'd greatly appreciate if you did so. And yeah, like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you next time.